All right, let's get going. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Olivier Travers. I'm a senior director at iLink Digital. Um, we are going to present today how to write data back from a Power BI report and get that data loaded back. So as a recursive model, loaded back into the Power BI semantic model using Inforiver Enterprise on the front end with Microsoft Fabric. We'll see that we end up with a very seamless process that doesn't involve a lot of hard technical setup, yet can scale at high levels of volume and is near real time. So this is really exciting developments where what Lumo has been working on for Writeback for the past couple of years and what Microsoft has developed on the Fabric side all come together. I hope you'll like it as much as I do. I'm here with my colleague Saki, who will perform the demonstration later. So let's move on to the next slide to introduce the agenda. I'll talk briefly about iLink Digital, who we are and what we do. I'll introduce Fabric. It's a fairly new platform, so I'll explain a bit the architecture and benefits. Then we'll talk about how Writeback works. Again, the features, but also the benefits of that complement to Power BI and its architecture. We'll have a good part of the webinar today on the actual live demonstration. So you see how we structure the Writeback modeling on the onset, to get things established, and then how the life cycle that you'll see is very, very easy to keep writing more data back and consume it in Power BI. And then we'll conclude with some next steps. Next slide, please. So iLink Digital is a global digital transformation system. We have offices across the US, opened Canada recently, have a presence in Europe that is starting from our office in Lisbon, and sizable presence in India and elsewhere in Middle East and Asia. We've been a Microsoft partner for many years and are proud of our high customer satisfaction. Next slide, please. On the data side specifically, which is the business unit we're working in, we've been Partner of the Year in the US for Power BI twice in a row. We're also one of the few Fabric featured partners who have worked with Microsoft very closely with our product team since before Fabric was even introduced publicly back in May. So for more than a year, we've been testing and sending feedback about Fabric. We're also one of the few companies that are recognized as a solution partner in different specialties: data warehouse migrations, analytics, AI and machine learning. So overall, we cover the full gamut of data engineering to get data from various sources, whether batch or real time, into business analytics and reporting, and enhanced with AI and machine learning, Gen AI, etc. So end to end, which is very relevant to a platform like a full tax platform like Fabric. Next slide, please. Our customer footprint. Did someone stop sharing the slides? Don't you see the slides? I can see the slides. Do other people have an issue not seeing the slides? I'm responding to someone who posted that question in the chat. Raise of hands if you have issues. Got it. Okay. All right. We're good. So our customer base is very broad in terms of industries, from retail to healthcare to telecom, manufacturing, and more, with a focus on Fortune 500 very large companies with fairly complex problems. And our technology partners, aside from Microsoft, where we're very strong, also cover Databricks, Confluent, which is a streaming Kafka managed platform, Snowflake, and other leading technologies such as OpenAI. Next slide. So enough about iLink. Let's talk about why we're here today. And I'll cover Fabric with the assumption that it's fairly new to most people, right? It was only released as a general availability offering last month at the Ignite conference. And as I said, phased down to the public in May. So the foundation, though, should be recognizable to people who know the Microsoft ecosystem. You see all those payloads on the top, such as Data Factory, Synapse, Power BI, of course. They've existed for a long time in the Microsoft cloud. Uh, Power BI is a known and the leading SaaS reporting platform, but Data Factory and Synapse have been also very recognized as platform as a service offerings. And you see there on the top right, Data Activator as a brand new offering. The idea here is that everything comes under one roof. Very easy to set up, very easy to navigate to, very easy to integrate, as opposed to the prior and still available approach as a platform as a service, which requires a bit more heavy lifting for integration. So everything, literally, you'll see in the demo, one click away. For those workloads, they're featured on the top. At the bottom here, you see that one like integrated layer, and we'll talk a lot about that today because the storage is going to be key to executing the recursive writeback that we're going to perform with Inforiver. So everything reads and writes in the same logical space. Next slide. Now, to explain a little more here, you have a couple ways that back and forth with the storage layer, the one like logical data like work. On the left, you have the aforementioned Fabric workloads, Power BI, Data Activator, and others, natively writing in Delta Parquet format with something called the order, which is a write optimization. So this is the very best performance you get from the native Fabric workloads. You also have other applications such as Databricks, Azure HD Insight, Snowflake, and others who know how to write into Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 through what's called the DFS API. And they're also able to write into Delta Parquet into that same one lake. So that means that like OneDrive, if you will, that we know as business users, as consumers, OneLake has that universal approach to data storage, and makes it easy to write into it, not just for Fabric, but also from the outside. Azure Data Lake Storage has been there for many years, so many third-party products know how to interact with these APIs, and that DFS API is the exact same one that was already there for many years. It has a slightly different endpoint, so sometimes third-party applications have to update the URL pattern that they recognize. But otherwise, it's really the exact same thing. So that really opens up and makes sure that your data is not locked in, whether on the way in or on the way out. Next slide, please. And that's really that foundation on open source standards that guarantees you're not going to have vendor lock-in. Which is always a concern when you have those hyperscalers and large data platforms coming in with a compelling functional pitch, which is great, but I don't want you to own my data and be locked in, and now you can raise prices and whatnot. The foundation of Fabric is really based on Spark for one of the main computing engines, Delta Lake, and Parquet. And you see that there's different runtimes already available in Fabric. The latest was released a few weeks ago called Runtime 1.2 with fairly recent, not necessarily the very latest, right? There's a bit of a lag between the latest open source release and what Microsoft feels comfortable operating at large scale under the Fabric roof, right? But we've seen already over the past few months a jump from 1.1 to 1.2 and an update in the corresponding Spark Delta Lake, and also the different languages that are supported in the platform. So with that stack, that gives you, as I said, that easy in and out guarantee that you're not going to be subject to any vendor lock-in. Delta Lake you can think as, and I'll explain that in the next slide, please. You can think of Delta Lake as a meta data layer, which is a transactional log. So whereas Parquet is, think of Parquet as a better version of CSV, right? It's just a better way to store data at large scale, optimized by COM with less redundancy than CSV, so it's just more efficient. But otherwise, it doesn't guarantee things such as ACID, making sure that you can keep track of transactions, roll them back if there's been an issue, etc. So Delta brings that layer of management on top of Parquet, and it's really that combination and that structure that gives you the ability to move from a traditional data lake, which has often, the bad reputation of their term of being called a data swamp, right? Because anything could go in there, unstructured data, and maybe we don't really know what's there. Delta Lake is going to help you manage a data lake like a warehouse, hence the lake house pattern. Next slide, please. So now, if we bring all of this together, those Delta Parquet files, the different payloads on the left, such as workloads, such as Data Factory, Power BI, Synapse, etc. Okay, I have those engines, I have my storage, but if I want to bring the data in a Power BI dataset, or now called semantic model, how do I do it? Traditionally, Power BI has functioned with two different type of storage modes. The more prevalent one is called import. In the middle there, you see this import arrow from a data source like a lakehouse, warehouse, or external data. Exactly. Thank you for the mouse cursor here. You create effectively a copy of all your data in a Power BI proprietary cache. The benefit, it's very fast. When your users interact with reports, they filter, they slice and dice, etc. It's a very smooth and compelling interactive experience. But there's latency, right? Because you need to refresh that cache. And you need to orchestrate those refreshes. Oftentimes, you have to set up incremental refresh, etc. And you duplicate data one more time here in the import cache, right? The alternative is called direct query. This direct query pattern is not storing a cache on the Power BI side. It's just passing back along queries back to the source. Again, could be SQL, Snowflake, a number of other data sources. Yes, it's real time and you don't have to import, so you don't have to duplicate data, but it's a much slower user experience. And usually at large scale, we end up having to combine those two patterns into what's called a composite model, where you're going to have some data in import mode, for instance, in aggregated tables, and some data in direct query, for instance, the freshest data, so that you don't send two queries that are huge and you don't have too much latency. This composite model capability in Power BI is great, but it's complex modeling, and it has some strings attached in how and what you can do. So it's always been a bit of a battle to reconcile those opposite goals between freshness and responsiveness. Now, Direct Lake doesn't need to import the data. What it does instead is in your semantic model on the Power BI side, just talked about, in a very efficient way. So you're going to have a performance as seen from the end user close to import, very close to import. But you're also going to be able to have that near real-time experience that direct query provides. And you get that benefit without doing complex composite modeling. So it's really one of the key benefits of Fabric for people who are not necessarily even interested in the other workflows in Fabric. They just want to do Power BI. Fabric lets you do Power BI better at a high scale. And we'll see how much of that is a direct benefit to Writeback patterns. So this one slide is really key to what we're going to demonstrate today. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, I want to be careful of not overhyping Direct Lake and Fabric. It is new technology, and as such, is still subject to a number of caveats and limitations. It's important to be aware of and set up those new technologies fully conversant in the limitations and trade-offs. In this instance, one main limitation is why I'm starting this slide with it, is that role level security and object level security is still very much a work in progress. It should be implemented in the weeks to come, but right now it's not yet enabled in direct lake mode. Um, you can source data from only a single lakehouse or warehouse. You cannot create a composite model. You cannot have calculated columns and calculated tables. You also have limitations in terms of data types, uh, lengths of string column values, etc. So um, when you have complex requirements, you need to make sure that they're not going to be hampered or incompatible with those limitations. I do expect that in time, Direct Lake is going to get better and better, and that this list is going to be narrowed down as the month and years unfold. There's definitely an ongoing investment and news on the Fabric side on a weekly basis. But this is the current state of affairs. Among these, the role of security, I would expect to be solved fairly quickly. I know Microsoft is working on it and has made some announcement to that effect. When will composite models be supported? And I'm saying when because you're seeing that the language says are not yet supported. So I do assume they will come in, but I haven't seen a roadmap, for instance, item on that. So uh, walk into your proofs of concept and planning informed by those limitations. They're there. Sometimes direct lake will be a great fit. And if we have time at the end, I might walk you through a proof of concept we've built successfully for one of our customers. But maybe it's not the right fit, and then we can always and still do Power BI classic import direct query or composite models, right? Everything in Fabric doesn't necessarily have to be direct link. But today, that's what we're going to demonstrate. Next slide. Now, we have two patterns that we're going to show today, the lake house and the warehouse. On the left, you have the lake house where we can actually query through a SQL endpoint the lake house with a T-SQL. So you say, well, if I can use SQL, isn't like a warehouse? Well, not quite, because on the warehouse side, on the right, in Synapse, in Fabric, you can read and write. So on the next slide, I'll explain in the end that it is all about um, addressing people within your organization. Next slide, please. By persona. Um, some people come from a heavy data administration background. They're SQL engineers, pretty much. They've been doing SQL over their life. Then the warehouse is more suitable for them because they'll be right in their comfort zone, right? Data is organized by schemas and tables within databases. It's all structured. They can run scripts. They come with everything also where they start doing role level security and things like that in SQL. So that's a great fit for them. Whereas on the Lakehouse, you can also bring unstructured data, and that's more something where people coming from heavy data engineering or data science background, people familiar with Spark and probably more conversant in languages such as Scala or Python will be looking. So we'll see that for Writeback, we can use either pattern with a bit of a caveat. We'll explain that during the demo. So Fabric tries to meet you where you currently are. It's not about forcing a specific language. It's not about forcing a specific technology. It's really a broad end-to-end platform. And as such, it can accommodate the experience and needs of various people with various backgrounds. Next slide. Now, Enough about Fabric. It gives you, and that's a very fast overview. We could spend hours talking about Fabric, but I want us to be able to have enough time for the demo. So let's move on to Inforiver Writeback, and then you'll see Inforiver Writeback demonstrated within Fabric. So Inforiver Writeback takes data that you input in a Power BI custom visual, and where you're going to be able to input not only numbers but also data structured in different ways, including checkboxes, dates, single or multi-select derived from a controlled vocabulary. You're going to have the ability to input formulas for rows or columns, and that will enable you to do things such as rolling forecasts and have really a strong collaboration platform. So you can have, for instance, comments including at the cell level, right? And that's a big differentiator right there from Power BI, which is just a report level type of commenting. Generally speaking, think of what's happening here as something very flexible that many people do in Excel, including handling scenarios, taking snapshots of data, etc. But you're going to be able to do that with security in place, with audit logging of everything that's going on, and with a wide variety of write-back destinations. So today we'll talk about Fabric as a destination, but you can also write back in anything from SharePoint to single store to Databricks to Snowflake and more. So a very, very powerful platform, very broad. And on the next slide, I want to really to emphasize that this is kind of a best of both worlds. You have all those sources. You can have not just write back your data, but also write back comments. You can save budgets and forecasts. You can define specific measures, and in Inforiver, you have easy ways to calculate things. You don't necessarily need to be a DAX expert. DAX is the advanced calculation language in Power BI, but not everyone knows how to use it. So Inforiver brings more of a low-code, no-code interface on top of your Power BI data model to create calculations. Um, and we'll see how the writeback itself is a very easy operation. And you can even extend this further with a webhook where you can write back not just by writing into a database, but also calling an external URL where programmatically you can perform a lot of other operations. Typically, what we've done here in collaboration with Inforiver is trigger a webhook in Power Automate. And then you can extend that write-back sequence with things such as notifications or even approvals in through Automate. So you can integrate this into a full-fledged application in, say, Microsoft Teams or SharePoint or other third-party applications. It's really very, very powerful. Next slide. So the benefit is really that you have the best of both worlds between something that's very easy and familiar like Excel, very flexible. Does it support Google Big Tables? You have BigQuery as a destination. Yes. Um, I'm saying yes very assertively, but now I'm second guessing myself. Let us double check for sure, and we'll get back to you, Venkat. Let's make a note of that. I'm now, I do think, but we'll have to double check. Um, yes, Excel structure. I mean, great structure. So something that's really easy to perform data entry in, but also structure in terms of what kind of data can you write. It cannot be just anything, and also the scalability that brings Power BI. So the idea is that you can respond quickly to changes, right? You want to be able to have rolling forecasts, for instance, on an ongoing basis. So the end goal from a business perspective is agility, right? But you do want to have structures and guardrails so that you reduce errors and also reduce how much copying and pasting or just menial work you have to do to execute those updates. Um, so we want to displace the effort from less technology and more actually being able to understand how the business is performing. And obviously, we need to have a strong foundation in security. So it's trying to reconcile, is it easy? And yes, but it's also structured and secure. Next slide. So we're going to talk today about two things. The initial setup. so that Writeback can operate within Fabric. And then we'll see a much simpler chart, which is the ongoing life cycle of new updates, new writebacks. So here, from left to right, we're going to bring data sources into Fabric. There could be a number of structured or semi-structured sources, anything from Excel to CSVs to SQL to Salesforce to you name it. There's probably a connector or API for it. So you'll bring that into one of the two workloads we talked about, either the lakehouse or the warehouse. It doesn't really matter. You'll see that it works regardless. Okay, I have my source data in Fabric. Now I want to add comments, I want to add measures, I want to add a forecast, or you name it, I want to add data to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to model my data like you would do, anytime in Power BI, you need to stage your semantic model, formerly known as a data set. That's the stage number 2. Then you're going to build that into a Power BI report as well, which exposes the semantic model through a user interface. That's stage 3. That's where you're going to feature the Inforiver visual, right? On stage 4, we're going to do initial write-back to configure our destination or destinations, how we want the data to be written back into, that's the arrow on the bottom, back to our lakehouse or warehouse. Okay, so now we have that write back, but we want to do the recursive write back. That means that what I wrote back is exposed in my semantic model. We don't want to have the write back only operating within the Inforiver visual, which is very easy to set up, but it's limited. Instead, what we want to have the recursive write back where the data that I wrote back into the lakehouse or warehouse is exposed to the entire semantic model, including other visuals, right? So those are the arrows 5, 6, 7, where we have to do a one-off modeling effort to bring a separate write-back table in our semantic model, establish the relationship in the model without the existing fact and dimensions. And then by 7, we can use and keep using the write-back. So it's a one-time effort. It might look a bit more complicated than it actually is. You'll see that in the demo. It's fairly seamless to set up. But we have that one-time effort. On the next slide, we see that once that's set up, it's really very easy where people will do their user data, their data entry in your Power BI report within for your visual. It goes into the lakehouse or warehouse, and well, it's there for the entire report to feature, right? So, and that's one big benefit of Fabric. Before Fabric, we had to stage a separate SQL database or other, data repository. So there was just much more infrastructure to set up, and we had to orchestrate the write-back, especially if a composite model was in play. It is possible, and we'll probably keep doing it for specific use cases. But there's much more going to be able to fully operate it. Here, it's as simple as it gets, right? And that's where people are going to have that feel of replacing Excel spreadsheets without too much complexity. I think I'm about close to finishing the slides. Next slide. Yes, we're going to transition to our live demo. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Saki, who has been driving the slideshow here, and he's going to show you how it actually works. Saki, you're probably on mute.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear. I'm audible. So, yeah, let us now jump into the live demo. Thank you, Olivia, for the intro and the detailed explanation about the fabric and Inforiver. So, let us jump into the demo now. So now currently I'm in Power BI services. So you can see I'm inside our workspace called as Fabric Info Webinar. And you can also notice that how our new Fabric setup is. So we are having all the solutions at one place. So this Fabric is going to be a one-stop solution for all your data questions. So we have the Power BI engine here, and we have Data Factory, Data Activator, and we also have data science, engineering, warehousing, and real-time analytics within this. So Coming to our workspace, so here I have all the things set up. I have a couple of warehouses and lakehouses set up, and basic data sets are also ready for the demo. And let me just quickly showcase what we have in our warehouse. So I have pulled in data from an external source, as we were mentioning before. This can be a CSV or from the SQL Server. So I have created pipelines to pull in data from there, or I can also create data within Fabric warehouses. So these are the tables that I have for now. And this data is consumed within my model, which I have created from scratch in the Fabric SaaS itself, as Foundation itself. And I'm consuming it into my end report. So, setting up a business use case here, what are we going to see? Just a sneak peek of what are we going to create through this webinar is basically an end user is going to come in here and he's going to put in an input of his budget for any month or any year that he wants, and he's going to write it back into his data source itself. So it's not just an input, it is going to be written back into your data source. So that is what we are going to do now. And this setup, this particular report is already set up end to end for the writeback and the Fabric workspace connected in. And now when I do a writeback or put a input value, you can also see there is options to how you can distribute your values in. So I'm just going to distribute it across the actuals. We can also go through all these features when I go into a developer perspective of demo. So I have distributed it, and you can see it is basically taking in my last month's value, which is December of 2022. So it is 171.79 million. So that is what is you are seeing it in the budget visual up top. And I have inputted a value for January of 2023. And if I give a write back, this is going to pull this data that I have inputted into this chart and push it back into my database, which is connected in a direct lake mode inside, and I'm fetching in the data from the table. So as you can see, it has notified me that the write back is done successfully. And within a couple of seconds, the data is going to be refreshed in the background. And when all that we need to do is we don't even need to refresh the whole page. You can just click on this refresh visual up top. So it's take a couple of minutes, and soon you're going to see a refreshed value of the new input that I have done now. Yep. So we got it here. So the latest value that I have input in here is showcased up top in the other visual, which I am consuming from my write back table. So this is how the recursive writeback works, and this is as simple as I showed for the business end users. But we are going to look into a developer perspective too in this live demo. So
So
jumping
before you
back,
dive in,
yes,
if you may allow me, Saki, thank you. Before you dive in, I want to talk more about Venkat's question here. So you see, there's barely any latency, right, between the time um, Inforiver confirms that the write back was completed. So the write back was completed in the warehouse, and the time it's actually available in the semantic model. There's just a couple seconds. You know, the first time we refreshed, it was not there yet. A couple seconds later, it was there. For people who know really well Power BI, you might know that in direct query mode, you can set up detection so that the visuals get auto refreshed. This is not available for now in direct lake mode. Hence why we had to go and refresh this little icon there to refresh the visual. So the data is there, but you have to tell the visual to check it. You could put your report on auto refresh of visuals, but the user experience is not necessarily great, right? Because it's going to spin up all the visuals every, say, 5 seconds. So we don't necessarily recommend doing so. Um, yes, Venkat, go ahead if you'd like to ask your question. I don't know that we have speaking ability though. I'm not sure. Can Abhishek? Can we unmute people? You might have to type your question. So Venkat, if you can type your question, or we'll follow up if you have specific questions separately. I don't want to break Saki's flow, as we have a lot to see, but the data is there, and it's very quick. So that's a big benefit of doing everything in one roof there. Saki, back to you.
Thank you, Olivier. So yeah. So jumping back into our developer's perspective of creating this end user report, I'm going to shift towards my desktop view of Power BI. So yeah, as you can see in here, this is my Inforiver visual that I have loaded in here. And this is the staging version that I'm using in, but you can also get it from your source. Yeah, so from the marketplace also. The enterprise version can be also bought up. And as you can notice that this particular report is connected in a live mode to a model which I have created. So this is a base model which I have in my services. This is completely created within the service itself in the direct lake mode. So I can also showcase what mode, storage mode it is in. Yeah, so it will be showcased in the services too. So this is a simple schema that I'm having in, and where my fact table is connected to all my dimension tables, and this is live connected to my report now. And so quickly, if I'm like pulling in a couple of columns and creating a visual in here, so you can put in a couple of rows as in market and salesperson, as I have dropped in here. And you can also add in your values under the values, and a couple of columns under your columns area. So once you are done here, you can also create different layouts. So just look around what we have, what Inforiver is going to give you in a high end. So we can also do a high level customization throughout your matrix visual. So as here, it is currently in a hierarchical mode. I'm just going to go on with a simple table format, and you can have all these options of doing conditional formatting, adding in totals, removing totals. Where do you want the totals to be? So, and likewise, it is a extensive session we will be having in the future maybe. So to go through all the each and everything that Inforiver brings up to the table. But for now, we will be focusing much more onto the data input and the write back perspective of view, and where I'm going to set up a budget column into my table. So as you can see, there is a tab called insert. So as you can go in here, you will have all these options where you can click on a quick measure, quick formula, and select predetermined values, or you can use all this insert formula option too. But in this scenario, I'm just going to go in here and create a data input value. And even here, you are having all these options of creating multi-select checkbox kind of columns, and you can also create a string value columns. And so simply, I'm just going to click on the number value and insert an empty series. So as you can see, it is going to create a virtual measure within my visual. So this is not a measure or anything. It's created outside the visual. It is just going to be created within the visual. And you can just click in here and name it to something. Since I already have a column called budget, I'm just renaming it to budget one. Uh, so yeah, once it is done, you can just give create, so that a new set of columns is created for you. And if I open up the hierarchy, you can see how the column is cascaded into under each and every month in the hierarchy too. So let me go back and delete this measure. I won't be needing it now, because I already have created a base measure now in my table. And going, sorry, give me a minute. So yeah, going back into our write back. So what our agenda is here. So it is to create a budget input column and to fill in values into it and push it back into your source server and reconsume it in your front end. So for now, I have created my measure column, and the second step I need to do in here is set up my write back destinations. So to set up that, you are going to go through a couple of steps. So initial phase, you just need to like select the type of write back table that you need to be falling into your source, and what are all the data that need to be fill into your data source. So here I just need my budget column to be filled back because I already have my actuals in my fact table, so I don't want it to be written back again. So I'm just going to deselect it, and going back to my destinations. So there is an option to add destinations in here. As you can see, there is none set so far. So I will just click on this add destination option, which will take me back into a web server, so where I can set up my destination, as in for lake house, as in for warehouse, anything. So first, initially, I can go on with setting up my fabric warehouse setup. So I'm clicking on my warehouse and giving continue. So these are all the credentials or the inputs that you have to give in before you set up for setting up your destination. So you can fetch in your SQL connection string, as in mentioned in here. You can get it from your warehouse where you will be seeing a SQL connection string, and you can just copy it and paste it over here. And the database name is basically your warehouse name, and schema comes in as what you have already created there. So I have already fetched in these data, and I'm just going to fill it in. So Fabric Inforiver Warehouse is my warehouse name, and I have a
So
simple, yeah,
obviously, this is a one-time setup. Like typically, your IT would do that, right? So for the more business users among you, people maybe on the finance side, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. You're not going to do this. This will be done for you once, right? This is not part of the end user experience. This is the back-end setup that is done once to be able to connect to Fabric.
exactly. So yeah, as mentioned, so this is need to be done just in the first time. So as we go, the business users or end users never need to go back and do this ever again. So this is handled just by the IT. And I have successfully set up my warehouse now, and I'm going back into my desktop. So as fast as that, you can just see my destination has been reflected over into my uh, visual. So it says fabric warehouse and write back demo. So write back demo is the table which I have given there. So basically, as you would have noticed, as when I was showcasing my warehouse, there is no table called as write back demo in here. But once I click on, just notice, so once I click on the write back function now, it is going to uh, create a new table, write back table within your fabric warehouse. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm clicking on write back, and it's loading. Within a couple of seconds, there is going to be a new table formed within my warehouse. So it is done. Going back, just going to refresh this. Yep. So my write back demo table, which I have created, is fallen into place. So this is all we need to do from the developer perspective. And once it is done, you can go back and give your inputs. So this part can be done at the service level too. So data input is available for the read mode too. So those are the things that we can notice here. Okay.
So now,
So I have given.
Saki, there was a question in the chat, on the fact that now this table needs to be brought into our semantic model, right? We need to relate that new table to the existing model.
Yes, exactly. So that part is when we are like going to reconsume the data into our table again. So if we are not going to do, if we are not going to do that, it is just the Inforiver visual. So in this case, I haven't done that backend work yet, but in my as we go, I will be showing you how the data is reconsumed into your model and remodeled it within and reused in the front end. So yeah, we'll be coming to that too again. So just to showcase the simple write back, how it works, I am just going to put in some values into my budget area for the January month. And okay, and I'm doing a write back. It's done. So this should be reflected within my table, which I have created now. So yeah, you're seeing the first month values updated in here. So it's just coming for all the salesperson since I have given equally distribute. So it is showing me the same value for everything. So if I have given it as shown before, like as distributed via actuals or something, it would have shown me different values. So meanwhile, I'm also quickly show you to create views within our SQL. So we can also create views within our warehouses using SQL. So I'm just going to a query in here, and I'm just going to, so I'm just going to run this. So you can also fetch in your tables as in a view format too. So that is one thing that we can do. And I'm just going to create run a query in here. So as you can see, there is a value for 2021, sorry, 2023 first month in here. And you can notice we can do a quick write back again for month of 20. So 2021, sorry, 2023 second month. I'm going back to my desktop mode and doing the same for February too. So you can see quickly just rerunning the query. So yeah, you got your values now. So this is how fast it is. So once I did the write back, it is showcasing it into your warehouse as fast as this. And you can also reconsume or create new views from your write back tables and reconsume it into your model. So coming back to the question that we got in. So this write back table or a view that you are going to create over it is going to be reconsumed within the model. And this is what the end model that I will have. So initially it was just a fact set up with the dimension tables. Now I have created another write back table which is connected towards my dimension tables too. So this is a simple model that I have created, and everything is created within the Power BI services, the SAS engine. And you can also create so many new measures in here, and the new columns and tables are disabled for now, but these are upcoming features. And even the roles, the OLS and RLS, these setups are also our upcoming features. And you can as I was mentioning before, you can also create a simple budget measure or RN actuals measure for using it into within your report. So this data set that I'm showing here now is what is consumed for my table, for my report, which I was showing you in the front. So initially I was showing you this report, right? So this is the report which is connected to the final model. And the budget input, this small visual up top you are seeing is coming from the writeback table itself. So this is how it is working. So when I give our input, data input, it is going to fall back into my warehouse or in my lakehouse, and it's going to be fetched back into my reporting and showcased in the front end. The same thing can go for the lakehouse setup too. So quickly going to the lakehouse setup. So you can, one thing I need to highlight here is through Inforiver, you can set up multiple destinations in one go. So I'm just going to go in here and add, give manage destinations, adding a new destination for Lakehouse. And for the lake house, the ask is different, a bit different from the warehouse. Here we are asked for ABFS path, which you can get from the lake house as shown in here. And also the service principals and client IDs that are base for the workspaces too. So as of now, everything is authenticated through a service principal, but in future they are working, the Inforiver is evolving, so we are going to have a new setup soon where everything is authenticated throughout with our Microsoft 365 login ID itself. So as of now, as I mentioned, it is through service principal, and you have to give in certain things to set it up first. So my lakehouse setup is also done, and I'm going back into my desktop mode, where you can see two destinations has been set up for now. And as similar to what we did for the write back for the warehouse, I am doing the same for the lakehouse too. I can just go in here, give some values, and just click on write back. So for the write back of Lake House, it is currently taking a bit more of time, I would say. So, but this is a work in progress, and my like as of now, Lumal Inforiver is basically fetching in or seeking help of external Spark engine. So that is where like we are facing a small lag within the Lake House part, but this is going to be soon fixed. We are like Lumal is working closely with Microsoft to fix this too, so everything will be falling within the fabric itself, and this process will be even more faster. And as I was telling you before, I also would like to show a quick peek on how the setup will be like later on, where you will be just need to log in within your Microsoft 365 login and select your warehouse, lakehouse, and give a table name. So this is as simple as it's going to be in the future. So yeah, as we were like waiting for this lakehouse setup, we can also jump into our lakehouse and see what's happening in there. So this is the lakehouse that I have. Just going to open it up. So as of now, all these tables, all these things are already present in my lakehouse. And from here, I have consumed it within my data model and did the semantic model as I was showing you before. And this unidentified part is where like my write back demo table, which I have like just given as a destination, is going to be prepared. So here the data is falling in as a delta packet files, and they are being converted into tables format or altogether automatically. We need not do anything. So all we did is click on the write back in the front end in within our Inforiver visual and set up a particular destination where you want the table to be falling in, and all the other things is carried forward by Inforiver itself. So this is as easy as it goes. So this, as you can see, it is a very no code, low code procedure that we have done to set up all these things all together. And even as Olivia has mentioned before, each and every step which we have went through for a developer perspective is a one time setup. So you need not go through this process every time as you want to read back. So as for the business perspective, all you need to do is just jump into your report and click on any values that you want. any cell that you want to enter in a value to, and give your value into it. And so, as I was also saying, so you can distribute it equally, or you can create a trend, like contributing towards the columns or the rows, and also you can distribute it alongside with the actuals. It will just pick up the weight of the actuals, and it gives you the proportional value to it. So that is what it's doing here. And once you are entered in your value, so you can also go cell by cell, so if you want, but I'm just going to do simple altogether write back in here. So I'm just going to give a write back once again for you to just notice how it works. So as for the business users, they just need to come in here, click on the value, and it is done. So yeah, so within a couple of seconds, you are going to see in a new value getting updated in here. Okay. Oh,
Thank you so much,
this may be, yeah.
Saki.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes a few seconds. Sometimes it's really like the next second, sometimes it's 5 seconds, but it's very, very seamless. I do hope we'll have change detection in direct, like just like direct query. I send that feedback to Microsoft, but it's very, very close to completely seamless. Um, uh, Definitely big progress for those advanced patterns versus composite models or any other write back solution really out there in the market. So thank you, Saki. Let's wrap up with the slides to stay on time. Um,
Sure.
we've seen that we have a very strong combination. Fabric really, next slide for the conclusion and next steps. Fabric is really a perfect platform for recursive writeback because of that tight integration between the semantic model in Power BI and the storage engine where you can read and write. So everything really connects, clicks together. Um, you can engage with Inforiver directly. There's a free self-service enterprise trials that you can go and check on their website. So if you don't want to, you don't have to engage with us. That said, we are happy to talk with you on guidance, integration, implementation, and help, whether Fabric, Inforiver, or the combination of the two. I'd like to point out that we're going to have a much heavier schedule of similar webinars for data next year. So this is our second in 3 months. We'll have way more webinars next year, and including in other time zones to support our clients in Asia and Europe. Um, there's going to be a write-back integration from the engine that we showed you beyond Inforiver Enterprise, which is the matrix we just demonstrated. Also integrated with their value planning or simulation tool, which is more of the, I like to think of it as the top-down approach, whereas Enterprise, Inforiver Enterprise is more of the bottom-up data entry. There's also a master data management tool that's coming from Lumel to complement what we demonstrated. And Inforiver Enterprise will continue to add new features. So look for Inforiver Enterprise 3.0 early next year. Next slide. And we'll wrap up. If there are questions, I think, in the interest of time, that you take them offline. I just wanted to mention briefly that we've done already in the past several months extensive proof of concepts, and we're already actually starting to deploy Fabric in production. In this instance, this is a Fortune 500 very well-known, restaurant chain in the U.S. Where we've completely transformed their ad hoc reporting for marketing reports from a MicroStrategy and Excel stack into a Fabric supported direct lake pattern. The data comes from a Snowflake data warehouse, and we have Power BI reports and Excel pivot tables with 1.2 billion rows of source data, very granular data. And when you interact and pivot and slice and dice those reports, they respond within a few seconds. That means that where for ad hoc reporting, and a very seasoned analyst had to spend 10 hours to create a new Excel spreadsheet from the ground up with complex queries. Now it takes about an hour just because they have some ad hoc dimensions to create. But the experience on the Power BI side is very, very seamless. So huge time savers at a very high scale. So I'll just conclude by pointing my contact info on the final slide. Thanking everyone for joining. I'll put my email here as well. And looking forward to engaging with um, I'm failing my copy and paste, but engaging with anyone interested in knowing more about what we've discussed today. Thanks very much.